just and then the second one. And then just breathing. and then riding pose. And then just rocking onto the front of the foot. So my heels are off the ground slightly. Rocking back onto the heels. 1, 2. And then let's try the 2 circles, feeling like the circle is going through the Dan Chen, out of the Ming Men and around. Making 2 circles, each one contains a foot. to riding horse, feeling the heels. And then just rocking onto the front of the foot again. And then the heels again, so rounding out into riding horse. So riding horse is very much a container. So my elbows are out, my knees are out. It's like I'm hugging a cylinder. And now let's just move from leg to leg, trying to get this lifting of the heel. So I lift the heel of this foot, and that starts the leg bending, which starts me being pulled into it. Feeling the two heels, so only one heel on the ground at a time. So as this heel starts to go down, the other one has to come up. Into riding horse again. And now let's try this version. This is much more active knees. The feet are closer together. And now the heel barely goes down. So it's quite wobbly. The whole thing is wobbly. And it really gets the calf muscles. All the time, I want this feeling that I'm moving in the direction that I'm turning. So when I'm turning to the right, I'm moving into the right foot, even though the heel is coming off the ground. And then just back into riding horse. And then let's just figure of 8 around the feet. Each foot is contained within a loop of the figure of 8. So I go into the heel, I go around the outside edge, through to the big toe, and then the big toe presses into the ground and sends the figure of 8 into this heel. I go around the heel, through from the little toe through to the big toe, press the big toe into the ground, and that drives the figure of 8 across into the other foot. So this action turns the foot into a scoop. So there's a feeling that it scoops the ground as I come around it. And it's scooping the ground up the instep in the inside of the leg and up into the groin. So it's the same as the 2 circle exercise, but just concentrating more on the foot. And now the figure of 8 within the foot. So this foot is contained within one of the loops of the figure of 8 that goes around the feet, but the foot also contains its own figure of 8. One loop of the figure of 8 contains the ball of the foot and the toes, and the other loop contains the heel. When I do this with the hand, when I trace a figure of 8, I can see that figure of 8 within my foot as well. So I go around the toes and then around the heel, back around the toes. As I go around the front of the foot, the toes, I'm turning towards it, and as though I'm coming up the figure of 8. And then as I go back and then around the heel, I'm turning away from it, and as though I'm going around the bottom. So the bottom of the figure of 8 is the heel, the top of the figure of 8 is the toes. And then some with the other foot. Round the toes, round the heel. Toes, heel. I want to see the figure of 8 in the foot. And then both together. and then just back into riding horse. But now, instead of having this feeling like a big cylinder that's containing me, I now have this sort of loopy feeling, like my heels are really going back like this, and then through the Ming Men and out of the front. Whereas when I do it the other way, just settling back into my heels, everything is coming through the Dan Chen and out of here like this. So now I've got this feeling of the heels, these dominant heels that want to slip out like this and reach backwards before they then scoop at the ground. I want to feel the heel as the opposable thumb of the foot. My heel is grabbing the ground like this, and my toes are grabbing the ground like this. So together they can clench. So this is what makes human beings originally so successful, was the opposable thumb, the fact that the hand could be used to grab things rather than simply move things around. So Neanderthal man, he couldn't really pull his thumb under, so his thumb would stick out like this. And so he didn't quite have the opposable thumb. We just want to really feel like the foot is two parts. There's a front and there's a back. And we can work them against each other to give this feeling of having grabbed something. And I came across a nice quotation. I think it was Cynthia Ozick. She said, "Metaphor is the opposable thumb of language. So through metaphor, we can get a grip on reality." So when I'm concentrating on my heels, they tend to slide out like this. When I concentrate on my toes, they tend to slide out like this. So there's this alternation all the time between the heel and the front of the foot. And now just stepping, but stepping with that figure of 8 in the foot. So I put the foot down. So let's just put the heel down, but I go around the heel. And then as I come into the foot, front of the foot, I go around the toes. And that just enables me to get a grip of the ground. So when we place the foot on the ground, the foot is going down in order to hit the ground. But at that moment of impact, we don't want an impact. We want it to be so soft and gentle. So at that moment of the foot actually touching the ground, I have to have a real sense that I'm pulling the foot away from the ground in order to lighten so it hits the ground at 0 velocity. So I'm sending my foot out, and as the heel goes down, it seems to be doing this. I'm sending the foot forwards and putting the heel down so that I can bring the weight into it. But at that moment of it actually touching the ground, I want this feeling that I'm pulling it back. So I put the heel down, and as I put it down, I'm going around the heel like this. I'm going around the figure of 8. So it's the figure of 8 in the foot that enables me to kiss the ground, touch it so lightly. So the feeling is that when you step, you send the foot out. You're doing this figure of 8 with your foot all the time. Exactly the same as if you were doing it with the hands. So this is happening in the foot. So as I send my foot out in order to step, I'm effectively going around the top of the figure of 8. And now as the foot goes down, that's when I'm going around the bottom of the figure of 8, and that starts pulling me into the front of the foot again, which then enables me to bring the back foot off the ground. So let's just try just figure of 8ing with the foot. I'm trying to do with my foot exactly what I'm doing with my hand. And then a little bit with the other foot. I'm trying to make my foot as malleable as possible, as much movement within the foot as I can get, especially between the front of the foot and the back of the foot, the heel. And now let's just try stepping with it. So I sink into this foot. So I'm going around the figure of 8 in this foot. That enables this foot to go out. And it's like I'm doing a figure of 8 with it. And as I'm going over the top of the figure of 8 and then around the heel, that's when the foot hits the ground. And then I just continue the figure of 8 to go around the toes again. And then effectively I have a complete figure of 8 whilst I'm in contact with the ground. So I've got the ground, this enables the other foot to come up. You just want to catch a feeling. So the problem with us, really, human beings, is that in order to communicate what it is that's happening, you need to use a model, something that the person can see. And yet, ultimately, it's got nothing to do with a model. It's all to do with feeling. When I do this figure of 8 in the foot, how am I changing? How is it changing the way I feel as I go around the figure of 8? So as I go over the top, I'm all optimistic and coming out of myself. And then as I go around the bottom, it's like I'm grinding around something unpleasant almost. And so there's a whole range of feeling just tracing the figure of 8 through once. That's what's important. It's the feeling, it's not the shape. And so here, there's a sense that I'm reaching out. I'm interested enough to want to step forwards. That's going over the top of the figure of 8. And now, in order to put my foot down without being an oaf, without being clumsy and over enthusiastic, I have to really consider my own impact upon the world. So something in me needs to draw in and stop being so self-centered. So to start with, I'm opening up. But then as I put the foot down, I need to really feel that so that I don't clash. I treat the ground with respect. I gather it up into me. And then I can slip around the toes again to get full contact with the ground. And my foot is very much like a figure of eight when it's on the ground. It's not like this big flat paddle. It's got this shape with it. The front of the foot and the heel, they can turn against each other like this. There's real flexibility. So here I'm reaching forwards, not just with my foot, but with my mind, with my enthusiasm. Something is coming out, and then I think, oh shit, I've got to be careful how this foot goes down. So I have to treat it with respect. It goes down, and then once it's down, then I've got a bit more confidence. Then I can come around the front of the foot, and then I've really got the ground. So we've done this before. Basically, just like Tai Chi stepping. And the important thing is that it's something that you feel. What's creating this movement is not your rational mind tracing a shape. It's you putting yourself through this range of feeling. Yeah, so in a sense, you put the toes down first. The only reason we put the toes down first when we step forwards is to cushion the descent of the heel. Otherwise, the heel will always tend to bang the ground, even if you're trying to pull it back. So the toes are just a lot more sensitive and finer than the heel, but we're trying to get real mobility and feeling in the heel as well, the part of the foot that's normally quite dead. I think of it like actors. So if an actor has to perform some act on stage or in a movie, it's not enough just to do it. They somehow have to find inside themselves the emotion that makes that act inevitable. It's exactly the same here. So what I want to do is put the foot down in this way. So what I have to find inside myself is what do I need to feel? What range do I need to go through? It's like feeling that's generated by like a gyration inside. So I've got to somehow have a feeling, but it's a feeling of a relationship. It's not just me having a feeling inside myself. It's a feeling that's generated by a connection that I'm making. So I'm making this connection with the ground in order to be really soft and respectful. And so what do I need to do with my body and my heart to just make it true? It's like artistic truth. Okay, let's just finish now. So for me, this is just supremely interesting because it's so obvious that when you work in this way, you're beginning to wake up aspects of your energy that has been dormant for a long time, aspects of our energy we don't really need to function within the immensely mundane, boring, comfortable, safe environment that in our stupidity we've created for ourselves. It's got a lot of sense that I'm turning away like this in order to allow what's here to open up. Because when I look into it, it will just flee. It will just all suck back. So I need to have this sense of turning away almost shyly in order to encourage things to open up. That's exactly the truth of it. That beautiful Heraclitus quote, nature loves to hide. And so nature only hides from human beings. We are so anti-natural, so against nature. And so we need these subtle strategies to encourage the natural world of energy to open up for us. And that requires us to be able to just turn away from it. And I'm not peeking out of the corner of my eye. I'm not cheating. I am literally turning away from it. And that allows what's here to open up. But it also allows the back of me to open up, because it's with my back that I actually interact with energy. It's not my front. I have to be able to withdraw my front so that my back, my wings can come out and touch the world. And this way of stepping is just very important for that. It's the opposite of, when you see people just going for a walk, an exercise walk in the park or whatever. They've generally got ear pods or headphones on. They're conscious of wanting to make an effort so they get most profit, most strength from this exercise, but no energy. Energy is a million miles away. And so if you were sort of walking somewhere that you'd never been before, or off the beaten path where the ground is difficult, and especially like in the olden days when like wild animals are liable to leap out and devour you, then you'd have to be really awake, and you'd put your feet down in a way that was of your spirit, not just of your selfish, clumsy, self-engrossed mind, really. And it's the same when you see people doing Qigong. Qigong it's all about you. It's all about you doing your exercise, developing your energy so that you can become more healthy. It's got nothing to do with other people. It's why, John used to tell that story of he was walking through the park in Taipei with Dr. Chi, and they saw this group doing Qigong, they're all doing their sort of movements. And Dr. Chi just shook his head and said, waste of golden time. Because as far as he's concerned, if you're with a group of people, you should have your hands on each other. You should be touching each other and producing, what the therapists call intersubjectivity. You're producing relationships. Because that's where real energy is. That's where real spirit is. It's not inside you. It's only accidentally inside you. And it's when it comes out inside you, you'd generally rather it didn't, because it probably means you're dying or you're in real difficulty. So let's just bring so it's very, very difficult. I'm reading Wilfred Bion at the moment. He's a psychoanalyst. He was taught and analyzed by Melanie Klein. He's very spiritual. He's the spiritual analyst, really. Freud had the sort of life instinct, the pleasure principle, and the death instinct, the death drive. And what he said actually there's a drive that's even stronger than both of them, and it's the truth drive. Something in you just yearns for the truth. And that's what we need to connect with. So that's what all of this work is about. It's not about feeling good or being successful or whatever. It's just about uncovering truth. So the joy that comes with that, and it's often very, very difficult because, especially when you uncover the truths about yourself, they're generally things you'd rather not know. And ultimately, it's all truth to do with yourself. And Bion says, he says, the liar is often much closer to the truth than the normal person, because at least the liar, in a sense, they know the truth and they have to lie about it. They just can't face it. So at least the truth has been exposed. So it's truth in the sense of authentic feeling. It's not scientific truths or things like that. And most of us just live in a state of unfeeling. And so we're so far from it. As John once said to me, you must wake up your fledgling heart. And it's just a beautiful phrase, because our hearts are very much like fledglings. They haven't even learnt to fly yet. They haven't even got their feathers yet.